Hey everyone, I'm Tom and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be wrapping up my month of June, and June was a fantastic reading month for me. I had so many great reads. I read a little bit more than I did last month, which is always nice when we can get that trend to go up just a little bit. And I also finished everything I planned to read in the month of June, and I have nothing bleeding over into July. I don't know about you, but anytime that I can actually finish everything that I plan to read and go into a new month fresh, it just feels a little bit better for me. As always, I would love to hear what you read and did down below in the comments, or you can always hit me up on the Discord linked in the description below. But let's go ahead and talk about what I finished reading in this month. And I already mentioned it was fantastic. And this month started out strong with actually my new favorite book of the year, and that would be Demon Copperhead. I did a full review for this book on the channel, so you can definitely go and find that out. But this was a book that was deeply moving to me, and it definitely is a book that I feel is important for a lot of people to read. It is not inside of what I normally read. I'm normally a sci-fi fantasy reader. This is much more a literary fiction with just like a lot of truth about certain parts of the world. It's a book that spoke to me deeply because I have been in areas and seen kind of the devastation that this book tackles, which is really just poverty in general, the opioid epidemic that is affecting so many places in the country, and just like I've seen a lot of that and seen people affected by so much of that, and it just was one of those stories that deeply spoke to me. It is a hard read. I I have recommended it to people, but I point out multiple times that it is not like a happy-go-lucky read. It gets you down in the muck, and it's almost one of those books where you could think of that it's just like trying to be over the top, but in reality this is just like real life for some people, and I think it is devastating to read. And I'll say it again and again, it is hard, but I do think it is worth it. It might destroy you a little bit emotionally. I've recommended to people who told me, they asked me why I was so mean for getting them to read this book, and I thought that was hilarious, but it is true. This is not something that you're probably going to like. Having a good time with it is not the way I would say it. I immensely love this book. I think it's super impactful, and one of those books. I keep comparing it to The Jungle by Upton St. Clair and To Kill a Mockingbird, and I just feel like that's a trio of books that like they go together well, and they all are doing something impactful, and with like commentary on society, which I know is not what everybody wants to read. I totally get the idea of just relaxing at the end of the day with a nice book that's, that escapism that so many people love to complain about. I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, and this is not going to be a book that fits into that, but it is definitely one that, like, if I could push one book I've read this year onto somebody's TBR, it's probably Demon Copperhead. And yeah, maybe I'm biased because I did love it so much, but it is just one of those ones where, sometimes it's good to see what's going on in the real world and just get that lens into something that hopefully you have not experienced. I don't wish the things that happen in this book to be experienced by anybody because they're horrific, right? And so yeah, it's not like a fun, happy book, but man, did I love it. And I started this month off great. And when I do my top 10 books of the year so far here later this week, Demon Copperhead will be one. So I'm definitely spoiling that list a little bit, but I think it's worth it to just mention that here and talk about how fantastic it was. After that, I went ahead and took a chance on another Audible exclusive. This one was called Dragon Day. It has a pretty cool cover if you look it up on Audible. It's part of like your Audible membership. So if you have Audible, you can just download it and listen. It was a short story. I knew it was going to be a good like kind of break between Demon Copperhead and the next book we'll talk about. And this was a fine time. On the spectrum of Audible originals that I have listened to, it was right in the middle. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't think it was anything special, but it was kind of fun. People mentioned in the comments that this was very similar to some other stories that they had read. I wish I could remember what it was. I appreciate people telling me that it reminded them a lot of another story, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head right now. But like I said, if you're looking for something to maybe just kill a little bit of time, or you need something in between some like bigger reads, Dragon Day, if you already have Audible, I mean, the audiobook is done super well, so like you have that going for it, and it's a quick enough fun story. Like, I mean, there's dragons, and like dragons are always cool, right? So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you pick it up, you probably won't be like immensely disappointed, but it's also not going to be like revolutionary and be it's one of those books where, like, you can never imagine it being somebody's favorite book, and there probably is somebody out there. Like, every book can have somebody. I say that all the time. Like, any book could be somebody's favorite. This is one of those ones where, like, it's a really low percentage chance that it's going to be a new favorite for you, but it's not bad either. It's just like fine. And there is a place for just fine, good books, right? And not everything needs to be, we don't need to be so extreme all the time. But it did end up being a perfect little break in between the heavy content that was Demon Copperhead and into my new obsession. Probably this is a series that I definitely want to be caught up on. It's a series that I've put off for so long, and it is one that pretty much from page one I was kind of in on, and that is Empire of Silence, book one of Sun Eater by Christopher Rocchio. This was just a fantastic time for me. I buddy read this with Noelle. It was great going back and forth with her. I know she hasn't finished it just yet, but like hearing her thoughts, bouncing some stuff back and forth between each other, made this a really great read. And there were just so many things I liked about it, and it was one of those books that, even though at times I found the main character Hadrian to be annoying and idealistic, and like there were so many times you just wanted to like shake him and like be like, look at the world that you live in and understand it better. I think those complexities of the character really do make the world better. I do think the story had a little bit of a lull, maybe like 2/3 of the way into it, until it picked up at the end. The ending is explosive and awesome, and really makes me excited for the future of this series and what I'm going to get into. And pretty much everybody has universally told me that, like, book one, if you like book one, you are in for a heck of a ride for the rest of Sun Eater, which makes me super excited because, like I said, it's a book I've known about this series, I think, since book 3 came out, if I can remember correctly. I can remember buying, I've had these books forever. I bought books 1, 2, and 3 when book 3 came out, and I still have not read them until now. So it's time, and I'm so glad that I'm starting it. It's going to be my kind of priority series because I can still catch up and be part of what is it, Ashes Among Men, when that last book comes out. I can still be like a part of that. So that is definitely going to be a huge priority for me. And Empire of Silence, man, it worked in so many ways. I see some of the influences that other stories have had on it. Dune, obviously, I think it's pretty well known. It was like a big inspiration here, and you definitely feel a lot of those things, and the way some of the world is architected with these great houses, the political things going on. Uranium is spice. You have people who are basically mentats, like all these things. And while it is pulling in from these other worlds that I also do really love, there's this layer of like uniqueness to it, and there are some things that get exposed very late into this book that really makes me wonder where some of the stuff is going to go with the C. Elson and everything. I'm hooked and super excited to go in. I'm going to read the first short story and then probably jump right into Howling Dark right after that. And so that was a fantastic read. And now, sticking with the sci-fi theme, I picked up another book this month, and this was one of the hardest sci-fi books I have ever read. And I don't mean like hard in difficulty, I mean like hard science. And that was called Dragon's Egg. This is, man, if you want to talk about like a dry, hard science fiction book, I can't remember the last time I read one like this. It's been a long time, and I'm normally somebody who really likes it. And I ended up giving, I don't think I said this actually, for Empire of Silence, it was a 4-star. Dragon Eggs is a 3-star. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. I really think the idea, anytime a story spends time with a new life form and how it evolves and like societies form in like the weirdest way possible, it's always going to be something I enjoy. But that doesn't mean I always want to like learn about like the spin gravity on a neutron star and like all those things. So this one struck that balance probably a little bit too hard into a little too heavy into hard sci-fi, which is fine. I still liked it. It's still a good time, and overall, like, if you're somebody who likes hard sci-fi, I would recommend it to you. You've probably read this actually, but I would definitely recommend it to you. It's one that I'm glad I read. I forget where I heard about it, but it was just like a good enough time, a good sci-fi book that, like, I haven't read any like real good sci-fi, well, like hard sci-fi like this, like I said, in a long time. So it's kind of nice to like do that again, like, because it's such a different reading experience compared to most of the stuff. Like Empire of Silence is very much Dune-esque sci fantasy, like high, it reads more like a fantasy, more like fiction story, right? Dragon's Egg does not feel like that, and those sci-fi books, I really do end up enjoying them so much. And not having done it in so long, it was kind of like a nice refresher to do it again. So I'm glad I read it. It is, again, on the shorter side, so you know, if you do sound interested in it, I definitely think it's like worth trying, because you'll know pretty quick. Like, this is definitely one of those stories I think you can bounce off of like pretty quickly. If you know it's not going to be for you, you know, you won't have to waste your time with it if you are somebody who you know, DNFs books. I'm not, so, you know, I just plow through everything, until even to my own detriment, but I do it anyway. And then the last thing that I finished this month was this early copy of Tears of the Fallen by Chance Dillon, fellow booktuber here, and this was a fantastic read. This, a lot of months, is probably my book of the month. Unfortunately, it just went up against Demon Copperhead this month, which is like an all-time new favorite, but this was super good. I enjoyed so much of this book, and I think I'm going to do a full like review for it. One, because this book isn't out yet, so I can kind of, you know, time it. Well, yeah, it'll probably be, I'll try to do it the week this book comes out. It actually will probably be out maybe a week or two before. I haven't decided yet, but I plan on doing a full review for this. So I don't want to say too much here just because I'll have my thoughts better. I just finished this pretty recently, like earlier today before I filmed this. But yeah, the whole time through, I really enjoyed this book. And it's one of those ones that it was a risk for me in that it's definitely a story that doesn't just like explain everything to you. You're very much just kind of thrown into the world, figure it out. Things are going to be talked about like you kind of already know, and you kind of have to put those puzzle pieces together. Not everything's going to be explained for you, all of that. I mean, obviously you learn and things, you figure things out as you get later and later into the story. But there is so much good in this book that I just had such a good time with it. Chance, man, you absolutely killed it with this book, and I'm so glad I got to read it, and I highly recommend that you do. Like I said, I don't have my full thoughts collected right now, so I will get those better together for the review. But man, this just has so many elements of great fantasy in it. You have the political intrigue, you have compelling characters, you have characters you end up really caring about in short amounts of time, you have interesting magic, you have interesting creatures, you have like the hero's journey, just so many things end up working so well in here for me. I'm really looking forward to whenever book two comes out, and I'll definitely be reading that. And man, definitely knocked it out for a first book. Like this is crazy impressive. I was never reading this and was thinking like, wow, you can tell this is like a first book or like anything like that. Like this is just like super well done, super polished, super enjoyable, like great fantasy book. And yeah, I'm just so glad I got to read it, and I'm looking forward to more. Now, switching away from the novels I read to some of the manga and comics that I read this month. So I didn't actually read too much in that field. I spent a lot of my time just physically reading books, and that's just kind of what I spent a lot of time with. I did read a little bit of Boruto, but I kind of have mixed feelings on Boruto. I think in general it's pretty decent. People probably hate it more. A lot of people. Actually, I don't know. If you read Boruto, definitely let me know. I'd love to hear what you were thinking about it. But the big one that I finally caught up on, I was probably 5 or 6 chapters behind, was Vinland Saga. And apparently Vinland Saga is ending next month, or with the next chapter, which is crazy to me because after catching up, I thought like I said, 5 or 6 chapters behind. I really thought we needed probably closer to 5 to do the rest of the story, but maybe it's going to be one real big long one. I don't know. But I am excited. I think Vinland Saga is one of those stories that if you have read the first, first 20-ish chapters or something like that, or like whatever the first season of the anime is, it takes such a hard U-turn after that like it gave me whiplash personally, and I didn't enjoy that middle section, what I'm going to call the middle section of the story, as much. I was actually pretty down on Vinland Saga because it felt like you were presented this one kind of story. It does a complete U-turn and turns into something else, and I think for me personally, it took a little bit of time for it to find its footing. But man, this last like set chunk of this story, I don't know how people actually break down the arcs, but this last chunk of the story has just been fantastic. I'm really curious to see on what ends up happening, how it ends up ending, and all that kind of stuff. It's one of those series that's been going on for so long and is so highly regarded that like ending it has got to be, a hard thing to do because so many people probably have so many different expectations and all kinds of stuff. For me, I'm just one of those people who's along for the journey. I have an idea. I have my own personal guesses on what I think is going to happen, and if I'm right, I'm going to be pretty hyped. If I'm not, well, it won't matter. But I have a pretty good idea of what is going to happen, I think. And so it's fun to be a part of the ending of something. And honestly, catching up to Vinland Saga to be caught up for the ending is giving me a little bit of motivation to really dive into One Piece so that I can get caught up, because like One Piece is just this phenomenon that so many people like. And if I end up not liking it as I read more, I won't force myself to. But it makes me kind of want to catch up on One Piece so I can be a part of another. Like there's been a couple big series that I have been caught up and been a part of. My Hero, Demon Slayer, Black Clover, caught up on Berserk, like Vinland Saga now. And there's others that I'm forgetting, but like I think being a part of One Piece there at the end would be like a cool thing. So that's one of the things that being at this point in Vinland Saga, even though they're not connected in any way whatsoever, has made me kind of want to get back into One Piece a little bit there. But that is pretty much all I read on the comics and manga front. I did technically get halfway through All-Star Superman, but because I'm going to be finishing that in July, I'll talk about it more in July and everything. And then for what I watched, I didn't watch a whole lot. I spent most of my time reading, which was actually really nice. Trying to not spend too much time looking at a screen is good, especially for somebody whose job it is to stare at a screen all day. But some things that I did watch, we did finish up Last of Us Season 2. I talked about it, and just kind of the nosedive of Season 2 was pretty crazy. I think I saw some things that like even the creators are like, yeah, we made some mistakes and we wish we could, like, we had time to fix them, but we don't. And I don't really know what they mean by that. But yeah, I'll be curious on if my girlfriend wants to watch season 3. I have a feeling she's not going to want to, and I will end up just watching season 3 by myself because I will finish it. I'm curious on how they'll handle some stuff and all of that. So I would love to hear more people's thoughts on season 2 if you watch it. I feel like it's one of those shows that so many people watch season 1, probably watched 2 episodes into season 2 and then stopped. So I would be curious. And then I finally started Squid Game season 2. I actually haven't finished it yet, but I'm gonna time it up pretty great to like be able to go straight into season 2 into season 3 without even trying. I didn't even realize it. I just was like trying to find something new after I finished some other stuff, like The Pit, and I was watching something else on Netflix that I can't remember, The Eternaut. And once I finished that, I was like really trying to find something to watch. And I was like, you know what? I never watched Squid Game season 2. And then I started watching it. And then like apparently it might come out like today for all I know. It's like end of June. So I think that's when it was supposed to come out for season 3. So I'm gonna like be able to go straight into season 3, which is pretty nice. So that's pretty lucky of me. But other than that, I didn't do a whole much. I mean, just a bunch of good reads. And yeah, Demon Copperhead Book of the Month, all that fun stuff. As always, feel free to talk to me down below in the comments, hit me up on Discord, all that fun stuff. And remember to read what you want when you want.